All right, so we've finished peeling the potatoes. One thing you may have noticed is I just brought the garbage can over here. It's easier wherever your cooking station is. If you have something that we normally keep our garbage can over there, by that mop over there. But if you're using your surface, bring it over just so you can clean up right as you go. Anyway, what we've got is I just added more fresh water into those potatoes. Make sure that they're fully covered. Because if any of them are exposed, they'll start oxidizing. So we've got our potatoes, we've got our onion, we've got our garlic. The timer did go off. And if you can see there on that eggplant, you can actually even see the moisture, the drips of water. You can see the water coming through on the paper towel. We take a peek here, maybe hard to see, but there are drops of water. What we're gonna do, part of the other thing we have to do is make some fine herbs. I'm gonna do the cheap man version of the fine herbs because we don't have any French high culinary cooking stores here in Bowmanville, Ontario to go to. But fine herbs really are a combination of parsley, tarragon, chervil, marjoram. You can use a number of them. But what we're going to use today is some canned marjoram. We're going to use some tarragon. These are actually fresh. We're going to use some chives. And, of course, we're going to use some dehydrated parsley. Great for the cheap man's version of fine herbs. Doesn't matter that it's cheap, it's good, and it tastes just as good. So, let's start chopping these up and making our fine herb mixture that's going to go into our ground beef. All right, so we're back here. We washed our board off after dealing with the potatoes. So we've got our fresh herbs. We've got our store-bought dry herbs. And we've got a nice little glass container to keep that mixture in. Washed our sharp knife. What we're going to do is we're going to start off by cutting up these chives. Chives are basically an onion. It's like a green onion, smaller version of it, milder. It's not as strong, but it's nice. So I don't plan on using this for anything else. So what we're going to do is just take them all out. You should rinse these off. So let's go do that. Let's rinse these off in the sink. So you got to be careful you don't cut yourself. So make sure your fingers and thumbs are tucked in. Putting your fingers on top, but not so your nails are out. You cut your tips of your fingers off, bring them in. Like that, leaving the end. We're just gonna go down. Notice how I'm holding the knife here. You don't hold it on the bottom of the blade, you're gonna cut your finger off. Hold it by this piece right here. That's what this is for. It's for your thumb. You can wrap your finger around and then you've got clearance there. So we're just gonna... Now what I'm doing is I'm grabbing, you can see here, I'm grabbing it tight. But now you got to kind of ease it up so you can slide your fingers down. Put this knife on the knuckle here. Put the knife down, and I'm just going to come down, and I'm going to push back and crawl back with my fingers. You're going to crawl back. You don't have to be Emeril Lagasse here. You don't have to be Mario Batali or Bobby Flay. You're not a chef, unless you are a chef. Take your time, because you don't want a blood bath in your chives. Okay? Take your time chopping these up. Make sure each time you walk back, be safe, and get those all done up. Now if you got some long stems at the end, don't worry about it. Just you can make them all into a pile, and you can just start, if you want, give it an extra couple chops, keeping the tip part down on the board, and you're going to make like a rocking motion like this. Don't put your finger here like I'm doing. I'm just showing you. Scrape it into a pile. Just keep it into a pile. And that's good. It's good enough. Then what we're going to do is going to put these into our container over here. Now, I could pause the video here and go wash this board, but it's all spice, it's all fine herbs. So I'm gonna take our tarragon. Tarragon's a beautiful spice. It's not used a lot. It has a flavor similar to like a anise, like a black licorice. A little bit, that's how I would describe it. And they're on stems. It's actually like a branch. So what I like to do with tarragon is find your branch and start bringing down your hands and taking the leaves off. All right, now one thing you may have noticed is that I used the whole container here and of both the chives and the tarragon. A lot of people look at this and go, oh, that's a lot. If you really think about this, if you were to dry these, put them in a mortar and pestle, or if you were to buy dried chives already in one of these containers, once it's dried, you virtually don't have much of this. It loses a lot of its weight and its volume because there's a lot of air in this. What I did do, as you noticed, I took my time afterwards. You may have seen in the video, I know it's time lapse, it's fast, but I went through this just to make sure that there's no extra stems that I may have accidentally dropped in here. So when you have this bunch of leaves, you can either take your knife and just start hammering through it. There's nothing wrong with that. What I like to do is just take them and just keep bunching them and rolling it. Bunching it and see how they come together. Just grab it all. It's not gonna be perfect. I do this with dill, with curly parsley, with cilantro, anything you buy in the store that's fresh. Just try to get it into a ball. And what you're gonna do is once it's in a ball, you can actually slice through it a lot better. You're still gonna have some loose ends, but watch. And you can feel it get through a lot of this material as you're doing this. A lot of the leaves. You can smell that coming right up as you're doing that too. Just awesome. You can smell that. That's actually like a beautiful smell. That it's I believe the tarragon and the marjoram that give moussaka the flavor that you're really looking for in the beef. This is going to be amazing. And while there are, cheap versions like this, we're using some dry spices and some fresh. I would always say, if you can, find tarragon, find some fresh tarragon, and then you can even use dry chives if you wanted. This fresh smell is just beautiful. So do this, chop that up. I think that's fine enough. Remember, we got 4 to 5 pounds of ground beef, and I'm not going into this. You need 1 teaspoon of this, 1 tablespoon of that. Let's stick to this. Make a nice big recipe, like a typical Greek family would do. And we're gonna package a lot of this up when we're done and save it for later dates. Because it's a process to go through to make this stuff. Let's not have to make it an everyday thing. Great job, let's go on to the next thing. Alright, so I just cleaned off the cutting board, and in here now we have our chives and our tarragon. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to take our parsley. We're going to put in about 3 tablespoons of dried parsley. And then I'm going to take some marjoram. Now marjoram is This is a ground marjoram. So what I'm gonna do, just for flavor, is I'm gonna sprinkle into this. You can see it coming in. I'm just gonna do it till I coat the top of the parsley with a very light layer. That's probably about, I don't know, maybe about a tablespoon, maybe not even maybe like 2 teaspoons to a tablespoon, roughly, altogether of marjoram. And then what I will do, just to keep these fresh until we use it, take a little olive oil, drizzle that over, and then we're going to mix that up. So, just gotta get the trusty washed stainless steel spoon, and we will just mix that just so that all of these are coated, pressing the marjoram down. Don't mind adding a little bit of pepper into there. We're gonna add some pepper anyway as we go, and salt to keep our seasoning up. I don't want to put salt in the herbs right now because I don't want this to become watery. So just add a little pepper. You can see when the leaves all start getting like they look a little glossy, shiny, glassy, you know you've kind of done your job here. These will be used a little later. Notice in the bottom, you shouldn't have like a little puddle of oil. You don't want that per se here right now. Okay, so we'll leave that, and you've made your homemade fine herbs.